Hello everybody, Glass Half Dead here, and today I want to talk about Warhammer WARCRY. Is that Age of Sigmar? Yeah, it probably is. So basically, this is, in my opinion, the biggest part of the WARCRY reveals. We just had yesterday it go up and say that WARCRY is going to be released for pre-order next Saturday, and today, Monday, we are finally getting kind of all of the rules changes, and even a WARCRY how to play, which is really useful because I had forgotten how to play. So I just watched that and it kind of refreshed me enough. It's a 9.5 minute video, and honestly, WARCRY is such a, I'm gonna say simple, but that's good. It's meant to be a simple game. It's not overly complex. That you can watch it, and if you have the memory in the back of your mind of how all of that works together, it makes sense. And now I can remember how toughness and strength works, and I remember how combat works. So that's awesome. I do want to make a quick, in this video we're going to very quickly look over all the three new things, the three new rules that they've pointed out in the article that are kind of redefine the game and have a little think about how they might affect the game going forwards. And then also take a look at, that's here, then we're going to also have a look at reactions, a little bit more about what exactly they might do. We're also going to have a look at the Horns of Hashut abilities card, which I'll just read off, essentially, because I think that's pretty interesting. And then oh, that's way too big. We're also going to have a look at the two unique reactions that they showed for the Rotmire Creed and the Horns of Hashut. And I do want to quickly point out before we get there, interestingly, obviously there's the big box coming out, but they had said that the Be'lakor's Legionaries, the Chaos Legionaries, were coming out at the same time. And it's just kind of odd that they're not being talked about at all. I understand, obviously, that GW wants to push the big box, right? That makes total sense. But to just leave one of the warbands by the wayside seems a little bit... yeah. So, before we get into it, I do want to point out a slight disparity, which is purely of personal irksome note and not actually an issue at all. If we look here, what is the background color here? This, they've decided it's WARCRY week. That means we put up the WARCRY stuff. Cool. I don't know what color this is. I'm going to guess orange, greeny orange. That's my guess. We then go to the article, and there's the old artwork at the top of every WARCRY article. Despite then putting the new colors, the new color scheme, they're sticking with the red, but now we're in the greeny orange thing. Please correct me if it's not greeny orange. And with that said, let's get into the rules. First up, the big thing is, of course, reactions, and they've now told us how reactions work. Essentially, if you don't know, in WARCRY, every fighter gets to make 2 actions, okay? It can be any combination of move, attack, disengage, and wait. And now you can give up one of those actions to perform a reaction if you haven't already activated, obviously, because then you wouldn't have any actions to give up during your opponent's turn. And there are 3 universal reactions, which we will talk about in a moment. One of them is on screen for you, counter. So this answers one of the big questions I had, and I actually, when I was thinking about this before, I had assumed or hoped or guessed, whatever, that there were going to be universal reactions. This means that if you are going to go and play one of the older warbands, you can play the full WARCRY game. You're not playing with this bizarre Frankenstein faction that doesn't have the new rules, that doesn't have, reactions. Similar to how, if you know WARCRY, no, this is WARCRY, if you know Underworlds, the Season 1 warbands didn't have access to any magic. They were still powerful, but you didn't have magic, and that was a big part of the game, etc, etc. So, there are 3 universal reactions. Everyone gets them. Cool, I like that, that's good. We'll talk about exactly what reactions are in a moment, because we have this coming up, which is nice and explains it all. They then point out campaigns. Now, at first, when it comes to campaigns and narrative play, for me personally, I don't have like a core group that I can regularly get not just consistent games in, but consistent and closely grouped games enough in that I can remember what happened in the last one, sort of thing. For me, I would like to play a campaign, and it would have to be like a burst. It would have to be a really, like, okay, these 2 weeks, we're banging out 12 games. Let's do it. If you say, hey, let's do a 3-month campaign of WARCRY, I was like, oh, nah, probably not. I'm okay. I think campaigns for WARCRY, because it's such a quick game as well, you can do a short campaign. They talk about how you can have your own encampment, and you can build that up, and I assume there will be some sort of way to battle within your encampment, almost like Necromunda. That would be cool. I'd be okay with that. And obviously, as we're about to talk about in a moment, okay, so I'm going to say this, and then immediately their third point is going to counter what I say here. But WARCRY is a narrative game. It's a fun game. You can build your narrative, you can have cool models doing cool things, and that's it. I don't think it's a competitive game. I think a lot of competitive players agree. And I think everyone that enjoys WARCRY agrees. So let's talk about the third point in the article, that is rebalancing. Now, they've mentioned something super cool, which is at the bottom here. They are going to be giving us a compendium for WARCRY. There's going to be 800 datasheets covering 40 factions. Firstly, I think that's great. I'm so excited for that. Forget the rest. Just give me reactions and the compendium. I don't know if I need anything more, to be entirely honest with you. I haven't seen these things in the flesh yet, but in my head, that's literally all I need. I am a hobby ADHD guy. I want to flit from one faction to another. I don't need to get into the weeds, like in 40k, where you have to say, oh, I want to play this other faction. Okay, well, see you in 200 plus hours of hobby time and learning the game until you're actually competent on a board. Nope. WARCRY, oh, 6 models, cool, let's put them together. And then I have all of the options in one book. Big fan. Now, I will say I'm thinking of this as someone that has not bought any WARCRY products for the last 2 years, so I haven't bought any of the Tome of Champions books. So there is no fear of me ending up in a situation where I have rules replaced immediately. So I'm in a little bit of a privileged position there. I'm sure that if the compendium drops and like it's, you know, some factions are just copy pasted from the Tome of Champions, or let's say you're not like me and you don't want to play a million factions, you just want to play one faction and it's whatever, Stormcast Eternals, who knows, and you open up your Vanguard Hunters from Tome of Champions and then you open up your Vanguard Hunters from the compendium and they're identical, you might feel a little bit cheated. I totally understand that, but for me personally, not a concern. I do hope that they give all of these old factions their own reaction as well, much like we're about to look at in a moment. But I would my expectations are set that they won't do that because I'm negative, I guess. But I hope that they do, and they should. There's no reason to not. And that means you can. I want to play Seraphon. There you go. I've said it. Strike me down. I want to play Seraphon. They're going to be my main. Good or bad, I just want to go out and play Seraphon. And I know that day one, I can grab the compendium. I can, you know, grab the boxes that I need for the, I don't know how many models are in a Seraphon band, 8 models. And then not only does that give me a workable list in WARCRY, it's also going to give me a nice little start to a Seraphon army in Age of Sigmar, which I also want to play. There is literally no downside for this for me. So keep that in mind as I say all of this, because they're talking here about balance, and they're talking about how they've rebalanced everything, and I think that's great that they're throwing it out there, and I hope that they have done a really good job, and I hope that they've got some new algorithm. But let's be super clear, I do not expect them to have actually play tested 800 datasheets correctly, right? So chances are they have their algorithm and they just run it on all the cards and that's it. And maybe all of the 40 factions got played, let's say once, maybe twice, into a core WARCRY warband, from the new edition into the Rotmire Krieg or the Horns of Hashut, most likely, right? Those were probably the tent poles of the edition, and they, let's assume, played each of the 40 factions into these 2 tent poles twice each. That's probably it. And that's gonna be it. Yep. Will they have gone in depth and found some broken combos? Maybe they never rolled a quad, right? Like, legit. Maybe they never rolled a quad, and so they never tested it. Who knows? Okay, moving on. I don't want to talk too much more about rebalancing because I don't know if I care too much. I just want to be able to have a fun game, which does, of course, require balance. But I'm not looking at this in a competitive sense where winning is part of the enjoyment and the grind. I just want some fair games, but also games where I expect, oh, he rolled a quad, okay, he's done something insane, and I'm okay with that because that's cool. Okay, we then get Learn to Play. I've paused that on, that was, I apologise to Mr. Baton immediately. That wasn't, let me move that to another, there you go, that's a bit more normal. So, the Learn to Play actually was really good. I think that, 9 minutes, 40 seconds, I think that the fact that it is such a simple game, you can just cram it all, and I do believe that it is very well explained. If you know what, if you've already been on the board with the old edition of WARCRY, you don't need to watch anything more than these 9 minutes, 40 seconds. So, yeah, really good. And they do make a thing in this Learn to Play about how simple the game of WARCRY is to play and learn. So, yeah, it's fine. This isn't something like Kill Team where they had to make 3 how to play videos because it's a little bit more in depth and you have to just say a little bit more about each thing because otherwise you're not really giving the full picture. Whereas in this, in WARCRY, you kind of are giving the full picture. Cool. And let's go over to reactions, which are pretty exciting. Can I do this in a way that you can see it as well? Nope, I cannot. Super. Well, I'll just put it here. I'll tell you what, I'll shrink me so that you can actually read. Oh, lovely. Okay. So, reactions. I already kind of explained what they were. Every fighter has access to 2 actions during their turn. You can sacrifice one of your actions so that when you activate, you'll only have 1 action. To be able to form an out of activation action, I would term it, if I want to use Kill Team terminology there, which allows you to do something, one of these 3 universals, in your own, in your enemy's turn, sorry. So these are counter. Essentially, if a counter is a melee reaction, where if the enemy charges into you, if they miss, they take damage. And if they critically miss, a 1, they take 2 damage instead of 1. This isn't going to be doing huge amounts of damage, but it is quite a cool idea. This just means that, I don't know, it's an interesting one. It's an interesting one. You're not doing huge damage, that's all I'm saying. But if you think you might die, you might take 1 or 2 hit points off them before you go. That's how I'm seeing it being done. Just like, it's kind of a last stand sort of thing. We then have Take Cover, which is basically if you get shot at, you take less damage. There you go. And then you have Strike Them Down, which is, I'm going to have to read this one. A fighter can make this reaction when a visible enemy fighter within 1 inch of them makes a disengage action. Yes, thank you. So if an enemy fighter disengages, you can attack them on a 4-up. Boom, easy. Also quite fun. So there you go. So you've got melee, you've got melee counteroffensive, you've got ranged defense, and you've got disengage offense, I guess is how we might term those. I think those are 3 totally understandable universal reactions. I think they could have gone a little bit further and given more that would have been always applicable and fun to use. However, for simplicity's sake, I'm actually totally okay with there only being 3 reactions for everyone to use, and then a 4th for your faction. I think that's a good amount to remember and not overload the brain. And if we focus on remembering things and not overloading things, then 3 is probably a good amount, even if there were better choices, or even if you could have created a better game, define that how you want. if you had included more universal reactions. So that's pretty cool. We then get to the horns of Hashut. I'm going to have to move myself. No, I'm going to stay there. It's fine. So, for those of you that don't know the way the abilities work, again, they explain this in the how to play video. Quite simple. At the beginning of a turn, you have the initiative phase. You roll 6 dice. If you roll any multiples of a single number, that gives you a double, a triple, or a quad. If you see here on the Horns of Hashut card, you have your symbol. That is the faction symbol. All the way on the left, you have your faction symbol. Then you have your rune mark. This dictates who can use it. You need to have a matching rune mark here on the data card, the war scroll that you're using, to be able to use it. The first one at the top doesn't have a rune mark, therefore everyone of that faction can use it. And then you have double, 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 triple, triple, quad. This is, I believe, the same on almost every card, but some of them only have 1 triple, or some have 3 triples. I think it's the only difference. Yeah, let's just read the top one off, because I think that's a nice defining ability, and then let's also read the quad off, because those two should be the defining abilities. Because one is one that everyone can use, and because it's only a double, and it has no rune mark attached, you should always have access to it. And the quad is, in my opinion, it should be at least, the very powerful, you know, I'm living the power fantasy, let's go hard kind of thing. So, first thing, double merciless cruelty. The next attack action made by this fighter, this activation scores a critical hit on a 5-up if the target fighter already has 5 or more damage points allocated to them before the attack action is made. So, being able to turn your weapon into critting on 5s instead of 6s is actually very nice. That's a very strong ability. But the fighter already has to have 5 or more damage allocated to them, and you have to be, I would say, not sure that you're going to get the kill. So that's going to be when you're going into a slightly more powerful monster, I would assume. Cool. But then go to the quad, Unleash the Raging Taurus. This fighter makes a bonus melee attack action. In addition, add 1 to the damage points allocated by each critical hit scored from that bonus attack action. Super good, obviously. This... Now, I don't know, I believe you can, but I believe you can stack abilities. So you could play Merciless Cruelty, allowing you to crit on 5s, and then Quad, which means you get extra damage on criticals. So that'd be pretty cool. There you go. Nice. Horns of Hashut. These seem good. I like them. There are certainly some abilities cards for factions where I read them and I'm like, oh, I've got no idea how this works. That isn't the case for Horns of Hashut. They are obviously a very simple hit stuff faction, which is great because that's exactly what WARCRY is supposed to be. And then we go over to, hold up now, let me zoom out sufficiently. So we then go over to the reactions that I took a screenshot of from the video. These are the reactions that appear on the abilities card and the fighter card next to the specific faction. So the WARCRY on top, the Horns of Hashut on the bottom. Let's read them, because we saw a teaser of these. These are what appeared and allowed us to know that reactions were a thing and a new rule was coming. So let's see what they were. First up, we have the WARCRY faction rules, fighter profiles, reaction, bile blood. A fighter can make this reaction when they are targeted by a melee attack action. After the damage is totaled, but before it is allocated to this fighter, roll a dice for each critical hit scored from that attack action. For each 3-up, allocate 3 damage points to the fighter that made that attack action. Now that's pretty cool. So if you... Okay. Before I read the next one, because I don't know what it is yet, I haven't read it, I'm going to read it live with you. I really like that, because something that WARCRY promotes, or at least it did in the old edition, is something called fishing for crits. And that is that a lot of fighters aren't very good. However, if you roll crits, they become good. And so you have something that's called fishing for crits, which is you can build armies or build... Otherwise, if crits weren't in the game, you could build relatively suboptimal warbands. But because crits are in the game, they suddenly, because you then have just super crazy weight of dice, and you're just running into things and just hoping for 6s and crits. And it's fine. It's fine. It's a casual game. Play how you want to play. This means, hey, come to me, fish for crits, I'm going to wreck your whoever does that, which I think is actually a really nice reaction there. And just off the top of my head, it seems like you get to see what they rolled first, so you're not kind of going for an anti-fishing for crits. They get the crits, then you decide. Very cool. So you can figure it out. You can see, okay, I'm going to die, so yes, I'm definitely going to do this. And you can also see, oh, he didn't roll any crits. Very cool. We then get the Horns of Hashut faction rules reaction, Breath of Cinder and Smoke. A fighter can make this reaction when an enemy fighter finishes a move action within 3 inches of them. Roll a dice. If the roll is equal to or greater than that enemy fighter's toughness characteristic, allocate 3 damage points to that enemy fighter and subtract 1 from the strength characteristic of melee attack actions made by that enemy fighter until the end of the battle round. Now, just off the top of my head, that seems like a really good reaction. And so there you go. So both of these, I've looked at them and I've said, those are really good reactions. I would be looking to use these, like these are just straight up stronger than the universal reactions we've seen there, in very different ways. But perhaps this could be where we see power creep, going from the Compendium to the new WARCRY warbands. Perhaps we're not going to be getting these faction reactions for the Compendium teams. And we are going to be getting that Underworld style, the new teams get the magic special rules and stuff. Whereas the old teams, they're still fine, they still work, they're still in the game, but they don't have the full rules because we've made really good reactions for the new teams. That's really interesting. I don't know, obviously, I haven't seen the Compendium. I'm just kind of talking about my possible fears. As said, I want to play Seraphon, right? So I'm going to go out and buy some Seraphon, and I'm going to make some models. It's going to be great. But what if they don't get the faction reaction, which, if all the faction reactions are like these, I'm just saying, my money immediately is on these reactions. Any faction that has these reactions, my money's on them, basically. Because these seem really strong. I don't think they're going to break the game to the point that there is no way anyone could possibly win against them. But these just seem like a really solid thing. Cool. Okay, well, that's it. That's the full read through. Let's go back to this page, which has a bunch of colors. I don't know what they are. There you go. Reminder, please let me know what color this is. Again, I thought it was green because that fits with Realm of the Beast, but then I kind of heard it's a bit more orangey, so I'm just very lost at the moment, basically. Cool. Well, thank you very much for watching, everybody. My interest and excitement for WARCRY continues. I suspect if you've made it to the end, what I'm going to do is hopefully get the box and cover it for a week or two, and then just allow it to fade into something that I occasionally do a battle report of, or maybe a faction deep dive of, in the background of my obviously regular Kill Team content. If that sounds like the worst thing you've ever heard, let me know, and maybe I will change my mind. I am actually receptive to these comments on the direction of my content, so that would be appreciated. Or if it sounds fine and you reckon you can handle, launch week hype and then the occasional faction focus or deep dive of something, let me know that as well. It'd be very helpful if you could guide me in some way. Guys, this is Big Glass Half Dead. Excited for WARCRY. Hoping to bring a little bit more Kill Team to you this week as well, though. And I hope you've had a good day and continue to have a good day. Goodbye.